invite all of our children of all ages, anyone who wants to come up for a story. We have our Director of Children's Ministry, Katie Resendez, who's going to share a story with us.
Good morning, everyone. As people start to take their seats up here, use it as an opportunity to stretch and bend your body here and there. I will tell you that this morning, a lot of our kiddos are invested in coloring envelopes to go to the immigration detainees. So know that you can also join that activity at the back table during service or after service as well. Still I rise. Imagine that you can draw back, not just in your own life and your own history, but the history of your ancestors to pull strength and images and dreams and hope. You get to pull on all of those and find the most powerful, meaningful pieces and own them and put them into your lives. Last week, Isabel told an amazing story about a UU ancestor. Does anyone remember? It was about Hosea Ballou, and it required pouring water on Johnny's head, yeah? Okay. It was about muddy feet and the concept of universal salvation. And as Unitarian Universalists, we take that concept as part of our way to center love. And we use it to center love. And today I want to think about how we do that while reaching back to our ancestors and finding comfort from our ancestors. Not just inspiration. Oftentimes, we'll hear people, especially if you're a person of color, like I am, you will be told that you have to make your ancestors proud, or your parents proud, or your grandparents proud, and it gets heavier and heavier, right? But the other thing is our ancestors also taught us how to cook really good food. They also taught us how to crochet and make our favorite blankets, and we find comfort in them. So I want to introduce you to some of our ancestors that we've embodied in the what is this room called? The sanctuary, a little bit. These are 3 seat buddies who live at the back shelf back there, and all of their names are of UU ancestors. So this one is Buckminster Cashin, and many of you know how much I adore Buckminster Fuller. This one is Alondria Seeger, and this one, you'll recognize one of the names from last week, is Harper Ballou. These are some of our ancestors that can comfort us, especially if we're feeling funny in our seats during worship. But today, I want to talk about another UU ancestor who we can draw some power from. Also, hi Leo, how are you? Good, I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to see all of you. It's December and everyone's coming back. So nice. Reverend Carlton Pearson was born in 1953. And see, when he was a young man, he went to university and studied his religion. He spent his entire college time sinking deeply into his faith. And his faith was Christianity. Remember those people of the Bible who follow Christ as their primary leader and prophet? He studied Christ. He studied Christianity, he studied biblical teachings, and he studied how to be a preacher. And he was a damn good preacher. Emphasis both on damn and good, and I'll explain in a second. By the time he finished his studies there, it was clear that he was going to be a leader. He was so charismatic. He could take his energy for stories and words and passions and conduct an entire room of emotion, as if I could make you all feel one thing. But this man was amazing. He preached to a church that he had formed of 6,000 members. 6,000 people each Sunday. So imagine every seat in this room is full of 48 people. 6,000 people every Sunday. And because of his faith, and because of how Christianity was shaped at the time, and evangelism, which is the type of Christianity he was part of, a lot of his preaching focused on eternal salvation, heaven, and also eternal damnation, hell. Because in his community, they believed that after you died, whether you went to one place or the other depended on your choices and your behaviors. And so every single Sunday, he would get up and preach to people about how their behaviors that week or in the coming weeks would determine where they went for the rest of all time, which is a pretty intense thing to teach people. But see, just like us in our Unitarian Universalist faith, Reverend Carlton Pearson valued learning and valued growing and centered love. And as he continued to preach those things and feel them, his feelings started to change and shift. And one of the most amazing things about the human heart and the human brain and our Unitarian Universalist values is that we can shift and change. And we can grow into a better way to center love. And he did that growing. Because you see, after years and years and years and lots and lots of dollars of preaching to 6,000 people a Sunday, can you imagine? Actually, you'd probably do fine preaching to 6,000. I've seen you speak. After years of that, he decided that it was uncomfortable. He said, I got real tired of damning my friends to hell every week. Whew. Can you imagine feeling like that was your job? Was to tell other people what they were doing wrong all the time. He said he got tired of it, and he had been watching the news and learning about suffering in the world, and one of the most basic questions for people who believe in that decision point between heaven and hell is who deserves one or the other, and why? And as UUs, especially UU kids, we don't always cope with that question. It's not a question for us. But it is for them, and it's a really important one. And he started to question whether or not being Christian, or being a good Christian, or maybe even Muslims and Jews could go to heaven. And as he started to open that space in his mind, it also opened a space in his heart. And to be able to figure out that love is expansive, and maybe, just maybe, nobody goes to hell? And I want you to reach back to last week when we talked about universal salvation. And we talked about it as a UU root. Reverend Carlton Pearson was a Christian man who said, this also aligns with my values, my understanding of the Bible and who I am and the faith that he had studied so much. He said, maybe none of us go to hell. Maybe we are all worthy of love, and we are all worthy of salvation. Saying those words got him named a heretic, someone who said things that were against the religion. He was told he was no longer allowed to preach. He was shunned. Eventually, his church closes down because the numbers go down. But he starts a new church. And he gains thousands of followers who are able to grow their understanding of their faith as Christians with this idea of salvation. Right? And it's amazing to see how this community grew. It grew fast and it grew strong, and it was very powerful. And as we as Unitarian Universalists step into this next phase of examining our values and our principles and our beliefs, I want us to see it as that opening in our minds and our hearts that he was feeling. Because if we can reach back and draw on that from him, we will be so strong and powerful as we take this next step. Because we can find that spot where love is centered and all of our other values surround us. Reverend Carlton Pearson died on October 19th of this year. He was an amazing, amazing man. I had an opportunity to spend some time with him a few times, and I really encourage all of you to look at his life and look at what he did, and what does it mean when your heart changes and you've been leading other people? And how do you take that shift with you? Because all of you are powerful enough to do that. So, thank you.